Somebody needs to remind the new guy that he already has this gig. Because apparently he was out campaigning again last night in Iowa. Iowa, whoop, whoop. Sorry.
She's an Iowa girl.
Sorry.
And here's how he addressed criticism about hiring the richest cabinet in American history. Take a look.
I love all people, rich or poor, but in those particular positions, I just don't want a poor person. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? If you insist, I'll do it, but I like it better this way, right?
As if he cares what they were going to say. If you insist, you know. What person behind him was a billionaire? Not one.
No.
I don't know what these people are thinking.
Well, I mean, okay, he says things badly often, but what I understood him to mean in this case was not rich, but successful.
What he meant?
I completely understood what he meant, because I think in the same way that if I want to get into television, we talk about this all the time, and I say, maybe I'll branch out. If I want to get into film and television, I don't go to a struggling actor for that advice. I go to Whoopi Goldberg, and not because you have money, but because you've been successful, because you've figured out how to work this crazy business. You figured out how to get to the top.
But
and I think what he was saying
but wait a
was
second.
successful people, and oftentimes success goes with
He's
money.
not the one to talk. His father gave him $1 million.
That's fine.
Well, he doesn't pay his workers. He doesn't pay his taxes.
He pays them, but
he sounds like a crook to me.
But he's not talking about himself. He's talking about the fact that his cabinet has a lot of wealthy people.
Yeah,
His
but remember
justification for that is that they've been
do you
successful.
remember when he said he was going to drain the swamp? Goldman Sachs was bad, and Wall Street was bad.
He hired the swamp.
Two people, at least 2 or 3 people in his cabinet are part of the swamp.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a different conversation.
The
and that's
context
fair.
of what he was
Wait, go ahead.
The context of what he was saying was that he was surrounding himself, like, I'm going to put people in charge. But the problem with that is, kind of building off what Joy said, is like Steve Munchkin, or Munchkin?
Munchkin.
No,
What's his name?
Steve Munchkin. It's cuter as a Munchkin, but it's Mnuchin. He's the son of a wealthy, well-connected family, so he was already starting out from a different space. Trump himself, Jared Kushner, Betsy DeVos. These aren't people that, based on success alone, I wonder how many of us could have ended up in similar places if we started out with money and resources. So I just think it doesn't necessarily work that way.
I think what's really important is that he doesn't talk about people that have experience. What about the experience? I mean, if you think about people in law enforcement, you know, the average federal prosecutor makes $49,000 a year. The average FBI agent makes $49,000 a year. They are not billionaires. They are not millionaires, but they put their lives on the line every single day. And guess what? They have experience. So he should be surrounding himself with people that have experience.
I have another point to your point about...
Hold on.
Wait. To your point about Whoopi Goldberg.
Yes.
Okay. Whoopi comes from the projects. Whoopi was not rich as a child.
That's right.
Her mother was a single mother, etc. So she is a self-made person. You would not go to, let's say, Jane Fonda, whose father was a famous actor. So it depends on who the successful person is.
That's not necessarily true, though, because I think
analogy
I
is
would go to
correct.
someone who had been... This is a very tough business, and much like the business world out there, I think he said it badly, but I think the point of...
He says everything
Mitt Romney spent...
Does he ever say anything goodly?
Well, that's true.
Or bigly?
I know. But the key for me was that Mitt Romney spent an entire election apologizing for the fact that he was rich. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear him say, you know what, I'm rich, and there's a lot of rich people in my cabinet, and I'm going to create policies that enable you all to get to the top as well.
How about rich people that have experience?
But if that were the case, as we see with a lot of big business, you know, big business does not necessarily take care of your health care. Big business does not necessarily give a good God bless it about your child care. So we see what happens when people run things like big business. Your health care disappears. Anything that has to do with realities that you have to go through in life as a worker disappear. This is the problem for me. When I don't know any gazillionaires that have put together the government. I've never seen this kind of thing before, because people always say, you know, there has to be a balance of people who have and don't have to put this together so everybody understands what real people are going through. And I don't see that this is what... Even when he says, you know, I don't mind poor people, you know, but I don't know if I want... You know, that is not the way person who is running a great company talks about their workers.
Not to show how old I am, but FDR,
How old are you?
But FDR, who I dated, was a very wealthy president, very wealthy, and a patrician, aristocratic family of America. And people used to say he was a traitor to his class because he empathized with poor people. I don't see that in this cabinet. I don't see that in Donald Trump for a second.
And they make their money on the backs of poor people. Many of them.
Remember that behind every great, I love this slogan, behind all great wealth is a crime, is a great crime. Remember that. I don't know if it's true 100%. I don't think it's true about Bill Gates, people like that. But behind all great wealth is great crime.
Well, you're not